Hi, my name is Farhan Hussein, and I'm going to be presenting on the effects of offshoring on American manufacturing. First off, a brief introduction. Offshoring is actually a type of outsourcing in which a firm sends a job to another nation when that job could have been completed domestically. Jobs are usually outsourced to countries less developed because they offer lower operating costs, lower wage rates for employees, tax benefits, and less regulation than in America. Basically, they want to lower costs as much as possible. I examined the relationship between offshoring and the manufacturing sector, and also the demographics of the manufacturing sector and which specific groups are affected the most by job losses and wage reductions. Offshoring has an especially negative impact on low scale manufacturing jobs. Sending the production of goods overseas is the easiest way for a firm to cut its costs. This causes higher unemployment, creates a more negative trade balance. However, the assumption that all of this is caused by offshoring relies on firms having a fixed amount of production. This means that if they choose to increase their offshore activities, then there would have to be an accompanying decrease in domestic activities and vice versa. This isn't always the case because, for example, if a firm gets a new drug, they will increase their domestic and foreign activities in order to sell the drug the most that they can. But still, if the foreign country provides conditions that are more favorable to the firm may choose to move their production and investment overseas. I'll talk more about this later. Offshoring has the largest impact on the manufacturing sector. As you can see below, manufacturing factories have been closing faster than they have been opening over the past 25 years, indicating a long term trend in decreasing manufacturing. Along with the analysis of the effects of offshoring on manufacturing, I will also be examining the demographics of the manufacturing sector. As you can see on the figure at the right, men greatly outweigh women in production, transportation, and material moving, which is just another name for manufacturing. This is because manufacturing has been a male dominated occupation throughout history, and gender barriers are just now recently being taken down. African American men have the highest participation rate in manufacturing with 25.1%. Second is Hispanic men with 22.4%. White men only 16.8% participate in manufacturing. However, since they are 78.1% of the population, they still make up the majority of manufacturing employees. In the survey done to gather the information in the graph to the right, many of the Hispanic and African American respondents said they're working two jobs in order to provide for their families. The proportion of white men who said this was much lower. Who is affected most? As you can see on the figure on the right again, women earn much less than women across the board in every single sector. This is especially true in manufacturing because the lack of female participation in the field, they just don't get paid as much. White, black, and Hispanic men in manufacturing earn $661, $576, and $510 per week, respectively. White men in manufacturing earn almost $100 more than their minority counterparts. This can be attributed to the fact that white men generally have a higher education level and tend to work higher skilled jobs in manufacturing. On the other hand, minorities work usually low skill manufacturing jobs in the factories. These are the jobs that are shipped overseas because they're the easiest ones to ship overseas. Production of materials can be done in a factory in any country. Because white men work the higher skilled administrative or technological jobs, they have higher wages and they enjoy higher job security. Technology may play a large part in the shrinking of the manufacturing sector. As technology improves, productivity also increases. This reduces the need for physical labor because if each person can produce more product, they don't need as many employees. In fact, U.S. manufacturers have increased their amount of capital sixfold while doubling the amount of capital per employee. This is again because of technology advancing. As you can see in the figure to the right, technology makes machines more efficient and produce more, and this means human labor is less necessary, and new higher skilled jobs are created in order for people to work with that technology, and those jobs require generally a better education. If offshoring were to be the cause of manufacturing loss in America, we would expect a foreign country such as China to experience a large increase in their manufacturing sector, especially since the belief is that most of our jobs have gone to China. However, this is not the case. As you can see in the graph to the bottom left, China's manufacturing has been trending downward, just like America's, and it's most likely due to improved technologies, just like America. Additionally, if you look at the graph to the bottom right, the upward sloping relationship between foreign activity or foreign sales growth and domestic sales growth indicates that foreign sales and domestic sales are complements rather than substitutes. This would be contrary to the theory of fixed amount of production, in which an increase in one, such as the foreign activity, would cause a decrease in other domestic activity. Further evidence that offshoring may not be as bad as it seems is that only 11% of foreign sales by a U.S. company in a foreign country are returned to the U.S. Of that, only 9% of the money goes to the United States parent company, while 2% goes to the U.S. customer. The other 89% of foreign sales stay in the foreign country. These numbers indicate that foreign affiliates of U.S. companies produce the majority of their products for the local market, in other words, to sell in the foreign country. If the majority of revenue and products made overseas stays in the foreign country, then the theory that companies move factories overseas to produce cheaper products to sell in America does not hold that much weight. The manufacturing sector is constantly changing. Demand for low skill factory jobs is decreasing, while the demand for high skill employees with cognitive and problem solving skills is rising. This has resulted in a drastic change in the makeup of the manufacturing workforce. Workers with high school degrees have decreased their employment by 38.6%, as you can see in the graph to the right. And on the other hand, people who have advanced degrees from universities have increased their employment in manufacturing by 44.4%. You can see that there's a downward trend of less educated employees in manufacturing, while there's a rise of college educated employees in manufacturing. This is affecting minorities much worse than white people because minorities generally work the lower skilled jobs in factories with low wages. On the other hand, white employees, as stated earlier, usually occupy the higher skill administrative jobs or technical jobs. Another reason for the shrinking of the manufacturing sector could be that America has been switching from a production economy to a services economy. And as a result, we've been importing more of our products rather than making them ourselves. This reduces the long term need for factories, and as in the figure a few slides ago, you could remember that manufacturing factories have been decreasing over the past 20 years. After analyzing all the data, it seems that offshoring does not have a negative impact on the American economy. Revenue and products made overseas usually stay overseas and do not affect domestic employment. It is a step towards globalization for many companies and provides new revenue streams. Many of these firms continue to grow in the U.S. while expanding overseas, and manufacturing has been leaving the United States with or without offshoring. Our economy is changing to a services economy, and manufacturing is just not as important anymore. Although offshoring is made to be a destructive process, it seems that the benefits greatly outweigh the costs for the American economy.